The dual swords are probably one of the best early game and utility weapons in the entire game, with a lot of very useful options that can help players on their playthrough, including some guaranteed stealth and easy ways of building TP more than probably any other weapon type. It's also paired with the dual guns initially, making it one of the most beginner-friendly classes in the entire game. Now, how does this translate if you're trying to optimize your dual swords for damage? Well, it's not the highest damaging weapon in the game, but it is pretty fun if nothing else, and does have some solid options going for it that other weapons may not have, like the ability to spam TP arts easier and access to some strong auras. It can be a great complementary weapon too. In this video, we'll be taking a look at the dual guns, discussing strengths and weaknesses, and showcasing how to use the weapon most effectively. If you enjoy guide content like this on Xenoblade Chronicles X and want to see more on the remaining weapons and other types of guides, please do be sure to subscribe to the channel because it does help me out so much. I'm getting very close to 100,000 subscribers and would really love to hit that milestone soon, and every little bit helps. Let's get started. As usual, let's go ahead and take a look at the arts and explain what you might want on your loadout. First up, we have Side Slash. This is one of the best arts in the entire game in my opinion. Not necessarily for any type of damage. You do get 150% extra damage if you attack from the side, and it also has the additional effect of applying fatigue, which can lower melee auto attack and battle art damage from enemies. But the real benefit of this is the fact that it is a very fast, immediate reuse 2-hit purple art. This is absolutely one of the best arts in the entire game when you have Overdrive active, because you can get a lot of TP back by using this art. 2,000 TP if you are at maximum count just by using this art, so you can get 6,000 TP total if you just use it 3 times in a row. Since quick recast is a thing in this game, you can also just immediately reuse it that way as well. It is really, really strong as an artifact. I would recommend bringing this art on pretty much every kit that you run the dual swords on. This art alone is one of the things that can make dual swords pretty worth it as a supporting weapon for basically any kind of ranged weapon if you plan to use it that way. This is a very, very good art. Next up, we have Shadow Strike, which is unfortunately not one of the better arts that you have. So Shadow Strike is a low hit scaling art, 1 hit, 300% hit scaling, so it's not going to be the most powerful art, even if you get that bonus effect of attacking from behind for the 400% bonus damage. Since it's just another source of additive damage, you're not going to see as much of a benefit out of that as you might want to. I think the other back attack art that you have, Backslash, is going to be a lot better. It's lower cooldown, has a higher hit scaling, and also deals 300% additional damage from behind. The one benefit that Shadow Strike might have over that art is just going to be the stagger effect, but even then, stagger is not that useful in this game since topple can still be easily applied without using stagger beforehand in this game, so stagger ends up being not as useful because of that. Just in general, you have more powerful melee arts too, like Electric Surge. This has 3 hits and 250% hit scaling, and can also get a damage ratio depending on how low your HP is. And this actually combos well with one of your other arts, because you can easily get yourself to low HP, and it's also fairly easy to keep yourself alive with, well, Ghostwalker, so you don't have to worry about having low HP that much. This is an ether-locked art, meaning it is always ether no matter what your weapon is, and that really isn't a problem at all, since ether is the best damage type in the entire game, so you don't have to worry about that either, thankfully. And then we have Backslash. As I said, this is just a better version of Shadow Strike in my opinion. It's really low cooldown, and it has an okay hit scaling for a singular hit, and you get more damage from attacking from behind. Now, if you're kind of fighting solo and in Overdrive, you're not going to get many chances to attack from behind, most likely, so you may not want to run this over some of the other options you have available to you, but it is there as an option if you do want it. And then we have Stream Edge. This is one of your TP arts on the dual swords. It is 6 hits with 400% hit scaling each, for 2,400% total hit scaling. Not the worst in the world. This can be a pretty decent art. You also get 200% more damage when you trigger a ranged combo, meaning you get a lot of benefit out of this if you're able to use it after a ranged art. Typically, Primer or Ghostwalker is going to be the best bet to combo into this in Overdrive, because you want to use a green art to combo into your orange art, since yellow into orange means you don't get the damage bonus. So Primer into Stream Edge is probably going to be the best bet to get the most damage possible if you're trying to trigger this and you're using dual swords as a supporting weapon, dual guns as a supporting weapon, which makes sense, of course, because they're kind of the paired weapons, which is why I am going to be using the dual guns as a supporting weapon in this video. Like I said, I am going to try to limit Ghostwalker as much as I can, but I felt like it was pretty fitting for this video at the very least. Regardless, Stream Edge, one of your most powerful arts you have available to you, probably your most powerful art in most situations. Very, very good art, probably very much a consideration to run on any kind of potential base build that you focus on TP arts to do damage with. Thirsty Edge is one of your first auras here. This will restore HP when landing melee attacks. This has negative synergy with Electric Surge, and you don't really need it when you have Ghostwalker. I would definitely not recommend running this over some of the other significantly more useful auras that the dual swords has available to it. Next up, we have Upper Hand. This just grants critical power. Now, this is just completely outclassed by Primer if you're running the dual swords as a supporting weapon, which grants critical power and also increases your TP by 200. And additionally, Primer is also useful because, well, it allows that range combo for Stream Edge, which Upper Hand does not, since of course it is a melee art. So Primer is just all around significantly superior for basically everything, since well, Stream Edge needs that ranged combo to get the most damage out of it. So pretty much never going to be running Upper Hand unless you are not using the dual guns, and then otherwise it might be more useful. Blood Sacrifice. This is actually a really, really nice art, especially if you're playing through the game in general, because you're able to half your current HP to boost TP by 1000. If you have something like Ghostwalker available to you, your health range does not really matter, so you're able to basically just spam this to get instant overdrive in pretty much any fight, since you have quick recast now, which makes this very, very strong as an art in this game. I really like quick recast for this art. It's really, really powerful, a really strong effect. And while it does fall off a little bit later in the game when you get access to easier overdrive and you can use side slash to gain TP when you're at maximum count and stuff like that, Blood Sacrifice is still a really nice art. It is very good early on in the game, as I said. Very, very solid art all around. Next up, we have 7th Edge. This is going to be your strongest general melee orange art. So if you're focusing on melee attack over potential, this is going to be your strongest art. It is 250% hit scaling with 6 hits, meaning you get about 1500% total hit scaling, which is not bad for a general melee art at all. And it can also increase your TP by 60 when triggering a ranged combo, which is probably the less important part of this. The main thing is just really the damage from it, though. You can get a lot of damage out of using 7th Edge. And it's especially kind of nice to combo with Electric Surge if you want to just kind of alternate arts back and forth, which can be a pretty viable strategy with the dual swords. It's not as strong as a TP build, in my opinion, but it is something that you can do, and it is a pretty decent option at the very least. Next up, we have Shadowrunner. Now, I have to say, this is actually one of the best utility arts in the entire game. It may not be the best art for a specifically damage-based loadout, but Shadowrunner is really, really good to just have equipped on your bar while you're playing through the game because, well, you can just kind of use it and then run past enemies because you'll just be undetectable. It's actually really, really nice for stealth sections in the game when you want to run past high-level enemies to get to a new area, and that makes Shadowrunner just generally extremely useful as an art. Now, as far as in-combat potential, it'll boost your damage from behind, so if you can't get behind an enemy, it can be really nice and can boost your potential. So if you are running a potential-based build, Shadowrunner can be very nice. Now, I am running Killing Machine over it because it also boosts potential, but also boosts melee accuracy and melee attack. So, Killing Machine is going to be much better if you're using melee attack, but if you're using potential-based build, Shadowrunner and Killing Machine aren't too much different, since I think these values should be the same effect. But the melee accuracy can be really nice against higher evasion enemies. You do like having melee accuracy in some of these builds. And generally, if you're not planning on attacking from behind, then Killing Machine is probably just going to be all around superior. Regardless, these are both pretty solid auras. And if you're running potential builds, you can really not go wrong with either of them. 100 Shells is your other TP art on the dual swords. This deals weapon damage, and if you attack from behind, you can deal more damage, meaning this is yet another positional where if you're able to get the behind attack, you'll do more damage with it. The behind damage isn't necessarily required because there's a lot of sources of additive damage in this game, so you don't lose out on too much by not getting the positional, but it can be nice to have at the very least. This is a 14-hit art with 150% hit scaling, so it also has a pretty high total hit scaling value. It's not as strong as Stream Edge overall, but it is a pretty strong art, and the good thing about dual swords is it's actually pretty easy to kind of use both of these on the same set, since side slash can restore so much of your TP very, very easily. So you're able to kind of use both of these on a TP-based build, which can be a pretty powerful option to kind of kill things pretty quickly in this game. So I actually do like this art, and I do kind of like how the dual swords lets you alternate 2 TP arts very easily like that. And then next up, we have Crisis Zone, the final aura that we kind of have available to it. This is just not nearly as good as your other auras that you have. It reduces your auto attack cooldown. Auto attacks are not a big source of damage at all, and can inflict continual damage over time. And it just doesn't really matter. The higher damage still doesn't really matter, just because you get so much more damage out of just having boosted potential or boosted melee attack compared to just something like this. So I do not recommend ever running Crisis Zone. It's just not a good aura compared to what else you have available to you. As I already mentioned, the dual guns are a perfect complementary weapon to the dual swords. They really work together really, really well. Primer in particular is just a better version of Upper Hand, which combos very well with some of the dual swords arts that wants ranged combos. Ghostwalker is fantastic with all the low HP effects that the dual sword has, to just kind of make sure you have that evasion while you're at low HP to get the most benefit out of it. Combos really well with Electric Surge as well. And then 0-0 is just a really good count builder for Overdrive, and that's the main reason I'm going to be running that over anything else here. Regardless, these are probably going to be the 3 kind of staple dual gun arts you're going to want if you're going to be supporting your dual swords for the most damage. For skills, I am once again running the very evil Core Crusher for this set, because while dual swords don't really lean into any particular attribute, it does have one ether-based art, which would make it be kind of synergistic with Core Crusher regardless, But outside of that, you can just run whatever you want, really. You do not have to run Core Crusher. If you want to run a different type of weapon, feel free to do that. You will get less damage, but do not feel like you need to run Core Crusher. This setup works entirely with any kind of weapon. If you want to have less damage but still do a different type of weapon and not use Core Crusher, you can absolutely do that. Do not feel pressured to run Core Crusher just because I tell you that it is the best skill in the game and does a crap ton of damage just because of the independent multiplier that it has. Feel free to run what you want, but Core Crusher is going to be optimal. That's all I'm going to say for that. And then we have Aura Assault, another really, really strong and powerful independent multiplier that boosts your melee attack and melee accuracy further when you have an Aura active, and you get a lot of benefit out of your Aura, and so you want to kind of take advantage of that as well. This also boosts your potential-based melee arts, so very, very good effect overall. Since I'm running the potential-based build, I'm going to be using the potential boost by 20%. If you're running a melee attack build, you're going to want to run Mighty Muscle over this instead. But for now, potential-based build, Inner Search is really good. Secondary Accelerator, this will reduce secondary cooldowns by 50%. Having reduced cooldown or less cooldowns is really, really nice to get the most benefit and damage. And then finally, I am running Trigger Happy. This will reduce an art's cooldown by 50% when I trigger a ranged combo. This can be very nice simply because I am going to be using a ranged combo every time I trigger Stream Edge, and that will allow Stream Edge to come up more often, which is my most powerful TP art, meaning I'll be able to use it even more often. So that is kind of the goal here, and why I'm running Trigger Happy instead of something else like Supreme Sword, since I'm using ranged combos in this build. Now, this isn't going to always apply, because there will be times I'll be using melee combos, but mainly I just want to use Stream Edge as much as I can, and that's going to be the main benefit of this. If you're running the melee build, you might want to consider replacing this, because you can use an Aura Rapid Cooldown melee build, which can be really nice as well. So you may want to just run something like Night Vision so you can get additional damage on your 7th edge or something like that. And you can just kind of replace this and still get really, really good cooldown reduction with the Aura Rapid Cooldown augments. But we'll talk about that in a second. Background noise is another option. If you do have a way to continuously attack from behind an enemy, just kind of stack up on all your back attack bonuses, that can be something you can do as well. For actual setup, I am running the Ultra Diamond Gladius and the Ultra Nebulan Dyads. My Ultra Nebulan Dyads have both potential up and potential boost. This is very, very good for a potential-based build, and the Gladius are an ether weapon that also has potential boost on it. So if I want to get as much potential as possible and do as much damage with my TP-based arts, since that scales off potential, this is what I'm going to be running to do the most damage possible. Now, if you're running a melee attack build, you probably want to replace the Dyads with the 4-slot dual guns or something like that, but you can use a bunch of extra additional melee attack on it, just kind of get as much melee attack as possible instead. But no matter what you're doing, you're going to want to run Appendage Crushers to make sure you hit 5 of those total. 5 Appendage Crushers as your augments, or at least weapon traits or armor traits or something like that, to make sure you're getting the maximum amount of damage when you're targeting appendages and just kind of lowering that appendage hardness against most enemies. I also have melee accuracy up on my Ultra Diamond Gladius, which is additionally useful to make sure we're hitting basically all of our attacks, especially with Aura Assault active. So that is really, really nice to have as well. And of course, I have 1 stack of Overdrive count up on my Dyads, because I don't really know what else to put there. You can put a damage booster if you want, maybe Ether attack up, something like that. Ultra Fauna Slave if you're fighting Ultra Fauna enemies. But just in general, just to kind of get my Overdrive going a little bit quicker, I just decided to have this kind of equipped for now. But there are definitely plenty of other options you have available to you. My headpiece is obviously going to be the double potential head, both potential up and potential boost that you can get basically on any headpiece. So just kind of farm a headpiece, make sure you have these traits if you want to do as much damage as possible with your TP-based potential arts. I'm also running 3 pieces of shop gear because you can't get potential on your torso, right arm, or legs any other way. So I'm running potential up as a trait on all of these just from buying it from the shop. And finally, I have the Ultra Boundless Bracer. This is mainly for the max TP boost because I do want to have some source of additional TP, so I'm not just kind of running on only 3,000 TP, because that'll make everything function a lot smoother. So having 5,000 TP is enough to kind of make everything function decently smooth. The melee attack boost doesn't matter for the potential-based build, but it is nice if you're running a melee attack build. Similarly, you can get melee attack on a right arm, and if you are running the melee attack build, you're probably going to run that instead, and you can get shop gear for the legs and torso that have melee attack boost on it as well. And for the headpiece, obviously, you can get Appendage Crusher on an eye patch, so you can run that instead if you're running the melee attack. But regardless, I think the TP potential-based build is definitely going to be doing more damage than the melee build, but I will show off the melee build at least a little bit in this video. But the TP build is going to be better, so that's what I'm showing off here. I have 4 potential ups and 1 potential boost as augments on my armor here to boost my potential as much as possible. We have a value of 979, which is really high with the current setup. I could have hit over 1,000 if I boosted my potential boost on my weapon to 20 instead of level 15, but it's not really a big deal. 979 is definitely enough to really showcase the damage of the weapon in general. So that is probably going to cover it for setup. let's go ahead and take a look at how to use the weapon practically and see how much fun this weapon can be. Having 2 TP arts can be really nice because it's easy to nearly or basically one combo a lot of enemies in the game, and that can be very, very beneficial to you. Now, obviously, I don't get maximum count with Overdrive immediately, though, so I do have to build up some count here before I can kind of go for that strategy. And I kind of alternate Primer and Blood Sacrifice into 0-0 to get as much benefit as I can. Blood Sacrifice will count as a melee combo for 0-0, meaning you can get more TP back that way. Not that you necessarily need it, but it is an option. At 64 count, I go ahead and go for the Stream Edge here, which does about over half of Parthas' health, and then I go for 100 shells after that. Now, it doesn't quite kill him. If I had more overdrive count, it would have easily killed him, but starting at 64 means it didn't end up quite killing. But you can see you can still easily get a lot of damage just out of using both of your TP arts back to back. Not as much as something like Longsword, obviously, but it can be pretty nice and pretty useful to have. Now, let's fight Gradivis. I'm going to do a longer fight here to just kind of showcase this build off in a bit more detail. Once again, Ghostwalker provides great survivability. So even if you use Blood Sacrifice at the start of a fight, it doesn't really matter too much as long as you're keeping yourself healthy and evasive with Ghostwalker, right? So once I hit about a count of 80, I go ahead and use my Aura. I use Side Slash to get my TP back, which I'll be using a lot, and then I use my 2 TP arts. Stream Edge first, obviously, for the ranged combo after Primer, and then 100 shells after that. So we do a decent amount of damage, and I use Ghostwalker again. Ghostwalker will trigger another ranged combo there, and then I go straight into 100 shells one more time. I can use Primer here, and then once again go into 100 shells. So you can see kind of how the gameplay loop here works. Gradivis has now activated his aura now that he's about half health, which means I do less damage now. I use Side Slash once again to get my TP back, activate Ghostwalker there to get my evasion back, activate Overdrive to get my duration back, Side Slash again for more TP, so I now have 3000 TP again, and we're just going to keep going from here. I do a little bit less damage now while the aura is active, but not the biggest deal in the world. It just means the fight's longer and we get to have more fun with the combat system, so not a big deal at all. So make sure you keep Ghostwalker up as per usual. Other than that, it's just making sure you're using ranged combos, which means either Primer or Ghostwalker into Stream Edge, and then 100 shells after that for the most damage possible here. Now, if you are able to get behind it, that can be an option, but since I'm kind of just busy spamming arts, I don't really have the way to reposition myself super efficiently, so I'm not going to be able to get the most damage out of 100 shells because of that, but it's not the biggest deal in the world at the very least. If I ever do run out of TP or if I'm ever low on TP, like I'm right here, I have less than 1000 TP, I've just used Side Slash afterwards into 100 shells to get that TP back and continue the fight, right? So that last 100 shells there, right when the aura wears off, ends up killing Gradivis. Pretty fun fight. I do like the ability that you're able to really easily spam TP arches because of all the ways you have to restore TP with the build. Side Slash is really good for that. You also have Blood Sacrifice into 0-0, and Primer also gives you some TP. There's just so many options. And if you start fights with no TP, it's really easy to get it back with Quick Recast, as I just did here. Start with Ghostwalker, Blood Sacrifice 3 times with Quick Recast, and you can very, very easily get your TP back, and you can pretty much just be off to the races from there. So once again, I get TP back with Side Slash here, just kind of building everything up. I did not even have to do all this. One Stream Edge would have very, very easily killed Luciel very, very early on. We didn't even get all the hits off, and Luciel still died. So that's something you could do if you're ever low on TP starting a fight. I want to show off the melee build to end this video. I use Aura Rapid Cooldown with this build, which means that if I have an Aura active, my arts get immediately off cooldown. So that can be really, really nice for just kind of spamming my melee arts as much as possible. Once I'm able to use Blood Sacrifice to activate Overdrive, I give myself even more TP again. And now I'm going to be using Blood Sacrifice into 0-0 to build up my TP even more during this kind of down period here. Once again, Ghostwalker is going to keep me alive during this period, so I don't really have to worry about my maximum HP. And I also want my health as low as possible to get more damage out of the 7th Edge. Sorry, not 7th Edge, the Electric Surge. I don't know why it's not an Electric Art. I don't know why it's an Ether Art when, you know, it's called Electric Surge. Pretty interesting. Once I activate Killing Machine, I now have the Aura Rapid cooldown. You can see how fast my arts are just immediately off the primary cooldown, and how I can easily just kind of chain them from the secondary and primary cooldown. I get it. Like I said, I did change my skills up a little bit for this, obviously. I have Mighty Muscle. I changed up Combo Gunner since I didn't really need it anymore. And otherwise, we're just kind of just alternating these abilities here. It's going to be the best way to kind of deal damage here. And it's not a bad DPS setup, honestly. It's pretty good. Now, we don't need Side Slash as much since we're focusing on melee arts instead of TP arts here. But we do have Side Slash just for additional TP gain for the Aura and for the Overdrive duration if we need it here. So the melee build's not necessarily bad at all. You can still get a lot of benefit and damage out of the melee build, as you can see here. I think the kill time actually is a little bit similar to the TP art kill setup here. It's a little bit slower, but not too much slower. But regardless, both setups, both builds work very, very well in general, so depends on what you want to go with, honestly. And yeah, dual swords are really, really fun. I think they have a pretty fun setup, pretty fun gameplay loop, but you do need to kind of pair them with dual guns to get the main benefit out of them, because you definitely want that evasion from Ghostwalker. So, like I said, I don't want to show off Ghostwalker in every video because we know Ghostwalker is really good and really broken, but I felt like it was fitting for the dual swords video at the very least here. So that's going to be Gradavis taken out with another different build option. I think that is going to probably cover it for this video, so I do hope you enjoyed, and I do hope you learned something and are more inspired to build your dual swords now. If you did, please do be sure to like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends who are new to the game and maybe like dual swords. I feel like this does function kind of as a Full Metal Jaguar guide as well, since I did focus on using both of the weapons, although I would definitely recommend using Executioner if I was focusing more on the class as a whole. Regardless, I do appreciate all the support. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Please look forward to all of my future guides, and hopefully I will see you back here soon.